Hey, so this is Christy here from Mindrewire. I had today off, so I am just kind of lounging around, and my Jeep's having issues, so it kind of set me still for a while. But I've been watching some videos on YouTube, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I think his channel is called The World News Report, and he does a lot of stuff on the solar weather and just general weather around the world. And he was just showing a map of the United States and how the basin that runs through California is right now, today is, I want to say it's August 13th, 22, is right now under a flash flood warning. So the area I live in, from Utah down into Arizona and then all the way up across Wyoming, is under a flash flood watch, right? So we're green, California's red, and it's bad. Like, the weather here has been weird, to say the least. Little cities and areas of Salt Lake have been flooding for the last day, maybe 2 days. And I don't know if that means our drought's over, but maybe that's what that means. But it's pretty strange. So he's talking about this flood that could pretty much wipe out the whole valley that runs from the top of California all the way down to Lower California. And he was talking about in a concurrent video, about, and he said it's not called the San Andreas fault. That's what we're told it is, and how we're told that works is not what it is either. But there's more fault lines to it than that start out in the ocean, and they have been having pretty big sized earthquakes, according to this guy, that are going unreported on the United States, whatever it would be normally reported on. And then there's earthquakes all the way up into Canada that are also not being reported along this same area. And he's saying if these earthquakes continue, what it's doing is shifting one of these plates that's alongside California underneath California. And as that's pushing underneath, right, now they're talking about the valley flooding, right? So there's going to be a lot of heavy torrential rains, which we have seen. Death Valley just got whamooed, right? Was it Yellowstone up in Montana got whamooed, right? They could just, like, torrential rains washing out roads. I mean, like, crazy stuff. So what I'm kind of visualizing is that plate's going to push under, and at the same time pushing water up into that valley, it's raining and flooding the valley, right? And I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I had a kind of weird vision of. And I mean, California could turn into a huge lake before this is over. And I don't know, all I can say is pray for California. So we'll see what actually starts happening over there, because there has been some really seriously weird weather going on. That we know this is all manufactured. It's definitely not natural. And what if it is natural is being, drastically altered by the stuff that they're manufacturing and causing all these problems. But I was reminded this morning also that this is the Great Reset. And we have been given false information kind of moving through this, and it keeps your attention off, right? And so this keeps happening, and we keep getting told that exact same thing. Don't focus on nuclear attack. Don't focus on, right? Focus on this instead, right? They're trying to move your attention onto something so you don't watch this, like the signing of the Green New Stupidity Act that's supposed to solve inflation. So, right, they do other things to keep us from paying attention to what they're really doing. But I think that's what all of this is. So I remember when all of this first started, when I first started hearing about the Great Reset and what that really meant. And you don't hear so much about this anymore, but it's still talked about on a few channels, that the Great Reset isn't so much about bringing down numbers of the population. It's not so much about the banking system switching out. It's not so much about, the genocide concept that's going on, which all of that is true. All of that's happening. So as we go through this and we put our attention on different things and whatever happens, and like now Trump's home getting raided, so that's a big deal because that changes a lot of stuff. I mean, definitely changes the way you trust any of the higher organizations of our government, if nothing else. But that's not what the Great Reset's about. The Great Reset is literally about resetting history and curtailing enough humans to keep this rolling forward that will buy into the new history that's being written. So while everything is going on that we're watching, and everything that's playing out, and everything that's changing and swapping over and flipping and switching and whatever it is that's happening, try to remember what the true story is. That they're rewriting history. Nothing will be the same after this, because those of us who remember history probably won't be here, right? We probably will be taken off the planet. So this has happened before in, I don't know if you'd call it our recent history, but in our knowledgeable history, in the knowledge that we were given, which we weren't given all the knowledge, but we were given enough to understand this concept. And that was the history of the Great Flood. And it's written about in more than just our Bible that we were handed in the Western world. It's written it's written in many different civilizations in their writings and teachings. And it's talked about in indigenous cultures that there was a great flood. What was the Great Flood? It was a great reset. Think about this for a second. So who got singled out was a group of people that would follow the being that wanted to reset the system. Wanted the system reset because nobody was paying attention or listening anymore. Everybody was just kind of doing their own thing, and this entity, this being that was probably Yahweh, decided to kill everybody because that wasn't what he wanted, right? So this Yahweh fella somehow caused this great flood, did whatever, right? And there had to have been other outside beings, because the Elohim were not beings necessarily of this planet. They came from somewhere else. So he reset the whole system by flooding the whole thing out. And now different regions have been reset along the way, right? Different places have been reset, in periods of time. We'll find different civilizations underwater, underground, or whatever that, time capsuled in history. And it just makes you stop and wonder, like, what was going on that they wanted this to be reset? And my guess is that the people had enough of a brain, right? Our system started coming back online, and our DNA, if that's even real, started functioning at a higher level, and our minds opened, right? We started chanting metanoia in our sleep or something. I caught myself doing that the other day. Metanoia, metanoia. Right? Open your mind, and all of a sudden you're in a higher level of consciousness, and you don't believe none of the crap that these people are telling you. And so whether there's white hats and dark hats, or whether those are all on the same parallel, working towards the same goal from different angles, right? There's so many different stories behind all this stuff. Or whether, there is truly a group of white hats who are trying to save the planet, and there's some outside influence that's helping with that. Or whether this is truly just another great reset because they want to stay in control, which is what's happened before, probably more times than we have any idea. And I think that's where, Hitler started in Germany with the Jews. He was trying to reset that whole idea. So you wipe out the memory, you wipe out the teachings, you wipe out the history, you wipe out, right, the original programming, you wipe out the way people did things, the way they thought, the way they acted, the things they eat. Hello. And whoever survives has to kind of curtail or has to, make way and give in to this new plan. And then from there they go on, and it recreates, right? Recreates humanity, I guess. That's what I think the Great Reset is. I think everything they're telling you is a bunch of horse dookie. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. And I think they're literally trying to reset our history. I think that part is true. They're trying to reset humanity. It's just like go back to the Noah idea. So Noah and his family got stuck on a boat, and they floated around because they were listening to the Yahweh character and doing what he said, and so they were saved. But then, it's stated that there was giants and there was other beings on the planet even after the flood resided. So some of the beings obviously were another way set aside, but the humans that were set aside were right there in that boat, and then they restarted repopulating stuff. And from that time forward, the mentality was different, right? Things had changed in the thinking and probably the theology of the age. Is that what they're trying to do here? Yeah. So I don't know, when you think about that and you think about how, they're using many different methods, they let this get way too far out of control because there's a lot of us. And I don't think, the shot clearly didn't do it. The jab clearly did not do what it was supposed to, because so many of us flat out were already not believing the government, right? The George Carlins of our time, our minds were already too open to buy into the crap, so none of us took it. But now there's all these crazy storms that are wiping people. There's so many other ways that they're coming at all of this. And from one side, you hear some of these floods are the dams and underground tunnels that are being flooded. But on the other side of that, you also hear that they're packing the dams and underground tunnels full of food supplies. So when whatever meteor or the earth or the sun explodes or whatever, you hear so many different weird things, right? The solar flare that's supposed to flash, and this huge humanity-wide extinction event, I think is the words I've heard for it. Supposed to wipe most of us out, is an outside event that's not even, right? So they're packing all their tunnels with all this food that none of us will have access to. So that's awesome. But when you think about it, the stories are so contradictory. Like, who do you believe? I don't know. I keep going back inside myself and just sitting and being in that solace, in that quiet, sacred space, because I figure if the solar flash actually happens, or whatever happens, right? Whatever is going to go on, if that actually happens, if you're in your heart, or you're aware that you can be in your heart, I think it's going to alter things. I think that is going to change our response level to what is happening or what could potentially happen. It changes that anyway. But to be able to stay there through a whole event, that will definitely change things, yeah? So that's kind of my plan. They keep talking about, have your plan, have your evacuation plan. I'm like, no, my plan is to sit in a spot on a cushion somewhere in my house and just be in my heart space and let things roll, right? I'm not going to be in the past, I'm not going to be in the future, and I'm not going to engage in the present moment. And if you're in your heart space, I think that's going to be liftoff for an ascension plan, an ascension plan or program. I don't know, what do you want to call it? Yeah, so that's where I think this is at. And everything that is moving forward, the fall of the petrodollar, the fiat dollar, the currency that we use, is imminent. That is going to happen. There's no way it can't. The food shortages seem pretty imminent. There's no way they cannot be. Our grocery stores are getting, I won't say they're empty, but there are spots on the shelves that weren't empty last time I went into a grocery store. Costco is still pretty packed. Costco still seems to have a good handle on things. I don't know how. But some of the smaller grocery stores, and they're not smaller, it's like Smith's and stuff like that, are definitely, I don't know. And then you start thinking about what they're doing with the IRS, and it's supposed to be defunct and closed down anyway, so how on earth are they funding it? So they switched it from the U.S. Incorporated to the White House Incorporated, and then that followed, but I didn't follow them to the White House Incorporated. I refuse to be a part of that nonsense, so they can have their IRS crap. I don't know, stay in your heart space, that's all I can say. There's a lot of funky monkey stuff going on, and you just have to be, while you're aware of it, you also have to be aware that you can stay in your heart, right? And there's safety there, there's peace there, there's solace there. I bless you. I hope this helps. If it does, please share it. My name is Christy Mattoon. I teach heart coherence. It was previously called Mindrewire. I don't know if I still am or not. I don't know. I'm just not sure. But this will rewire your mind. It'll rewire your whole system. So if you need anything, just let me know. I'm at mindrewire@protonmail.com. Or it's pretty easy to find my phone number. Feel free to give me a call. I don't answer the phone typically, but I will call you back if it sounds like it's something I need to do. I bless you.